gift of Troy is a fabulous fabric from the land of the five rivers.
Beatsmith Music.
Hey, we back, man, for another edition for the PharoahNFL and Raider Ray show, man. We got a lot to talk about, man. I mean, we were supposed to go live earlier in the week, but yeah, we're making it work today. People got things to do, and we appreciate everybody coming through. We know you guys have been waiting for us to go live or hear our thoughts. And to be honest with you, I'm not even trying to talk like that. We just want to talk football with everybody. It's going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about the draft. Mike Mayock had some interesting comments. Peter King dropped a crazy article on Monday. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that. We'll get into our favorite draft picks and what we feel about the team. But, man, Ray, man, how you doing, man? How's everything going?
Hey, I'm doing good. It's just a pleasure to hop on here with you, talk some ball. There's a lot to talk about. The draft was exciting. We'll kind of take an in-depth dive on that. But, man, just enjoying the time of year that it is. And as we head into this kind of slow period, I'm just excited to recap everything.
Cool. Hey, hold it down for me for a second. If you can shout out someone in the chat.
Yeah. And look, man, shout out to everybody in the chat. If you guys have not yet, make sure that you smash the like button, shoot this up the algorithm, let other Raider fans know that we're going live. Shout out to Sean Johnson in the building, T Severe's in the building. Everybody go check out T Severe's YouTube. He just posted a video this week. Go show support to T Severe. Auntie Six is in the building. Shout out to you, Auntie Six. Thank you for pulling up, my friend. Stephen Williams, Raider Nation for life. Raphael, D Menace. I mean, we've got everybody pulling up, man. We got a great show lined up for you guys.
Yeah, man. Well, I can't wait to get into it, man. But let's start with what the last time we were here. We went live during the NFL draft. We were watching it just like everybody else live, so we didn't really have a lot of time to really think about what the Raiders picks were about. We were able to react to it, but at the end of the day, like, we had some time to think about it, and let's just get into it, man. Like, our final thoughts on the NFL, on the Raiders draft. So, what were your thoughts, man? Did the Raiders get better? Did they address some of the positions on this team that you felt like they should have improved on? Like, let's talk to the people.
Yeah, overall, I would say it was a solid draft. There were some good pieces. There's also some questionable picks that we'll kind of talk about. Overall, I think the Raiders came away from this draft a better football team, and they added some talent, some youth to a lot of positions of need. Now, I would say that there are still empty voids on the team, specifically at the right guard position. I know we got Natane Moody and Alex Bars, and I know that we got the undrafted free agent, I believe from Chattanooga, and but linebacker is also still a big hole, and we're going to talk about that later. But overall, yeah, I kind of like what they did in the draft. We got defensive weapons. We attacked the offensive side of the football, let a best player available kind of fall to you in the second. Overall, I think the Raiders did good.
Yeah, I thought they did pretty well. I felt like the first 2 rounds they got pretty much, if you think about it, like some starters. Yeah. They killed the first couple of rounds. Yeah. The later rounds, it's up to debate. We'll talk about that today. But I think that, it's been a while since the Raiders actually, did well in the first couple of rounds. I mean, it's too early to tell. At the end of the day, some of these players, it might go left. But early impressions, I feel like the Raiders got some good players in the first couple of rounds. I was surprised that we were able to get a corner. And I'm jumping ahead right now, but let's get into like our favorite picks of the draft.
Okay,
let's just get into our favorite picks of the draft, and let's pull it up right now. So I'll just start off by saying my favorite pick of the draft it has to be Jacorian Bennett. The fact that we can get a cornerback that's as talented, and that speaks to the depth of the cornerback position in the draft. I felt like for him to be there in the 4th round. With his speed, his athletic profile, it was pretty much similar to his teammate, Deonte Banks. I know Deonte is about 6'1". Bennett is about like 5'11", but still both have 4.3 speed, both have 40-inch verticals. Both have a pretty good ball production. You know what I mean? As far as I think with Bennett, it's a lot of pass defense. Not a guy that like forces turnovers a lot. I think he probably might have improved a little bit maybe last season. I think he had a couple of picks, but a lot of pass defense. But that's a ball of clay that the Raiders can work with in the 4th round. So, hey, he could possibly start. So he could possibly start in the secondary, especially if you think about it. A lot of corners on our team right now on 1-year deals. Is Nate Hobbs? This is last year on a deal. He has a couple. I think
he might actually be heading into a contract year.
Yeah, but there's a lot of players in that room that have like 1 year left on their deal, or they signed a 1-year contract. Yeah, so to get a young, promising rookie like that, I'm excited. Like in that position, the Raiders getting a cornerback. What are your thoughts, and what were your favorite picks of the draft?
I like Bennett. I like the route that you decided to go there. You didn't kind of go too cliche, and you kind of picked a guy that maybe not a lot of people were going to say. I'm going to probably sound more cliche with mine just because I'm starting to put together what the Raiders are doing offensively. So I'm going to have to go to the 2nd round just because I feel like it's been a long time where the board kind of fell in our favor, and you are also aggressive enough to go and trade up to go get a guy. And I'm talking about tight end Michael Mayer. I think he is somebody who is going to help this offense significantly. In my projection, I would say in the next 2 to 3 years, I think you're actually looking at a top 5, top 7 tight end in the National Football League, especially under this scheme and system. So to get him in the 2nd round, I liked the value there. And I say he's going to be that valuable because we've seen the system produce tight ends. But not only that, but it's the type of tight end that Michael Mayer is. And I think what has been the number one issue for the Raiders offense over the past few years, it's been the red zone. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo with a high red zone efficiency, you get Michael Mayer, you're bringing back Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams. When you're talking about having Jacoby Myers and Devontae and Josh, you're talking about a trio there, but Michael Mayer getting thrown in there, and also an Austin Hooper in the tight end room who has high red zone production. So when I look at what they did from abroad, you kind of take a step back and look like what they did at the roster. You could tell that red zone efficiency has been optimal. It's been circled on their radar this entire offseason. Let's do what we can to make this red zone offense much more able to finally put points on the board. And I think that's what they did. And so for me, Michael Mayer was my favorite pick.
No, I agree, but he's not exciting though. I'm not gonna lie. He's not like an exciting player to watch.
He's not gonna stretch the field. He's just gonna do everything right. When you throw him the football, he's gonna catch it. When you're asking him to block, he's gonna block. So yeah, I like it. I like it.
He does the little things right. Like especially he's really good at like those 50-50 balls. He knows how to position himself to get those contested catches, because he's gonna have to do that a lot in his NFL career if he's gonna be able to be successful, because he's not a fast guy at all. And what he reminds me of a little bit, some people said, Mark Andrews. Yeah. But he doesn't have that yak ability like Andrews. Like I don't see that in him like that. What I see a little bit is Jason Witten.
Yeah, Jason Witten's his comp.
Top end, like if he really like maxed out, I think. But we'll never know. We got to see him play.
He's just going to be a red zone bully. That's what I like about him. Is it feels like we're reverting back to a little bit of what Raiders football is: run heavy, smash mouth, big old school tight end. You throw it at me, I'm just going to be bigger, stronger than you. I'm going to go get it. That's what Michael Mayer is. And me living here in Indiana, I get to watch a lot of Notre Dame football. There's a lot of Notre Dame fans here, so it's easy for me to pick the brain of people around here. And man, everybody who is close to me has came to me and is like, I cannot believe the Raiders just got Michael Mayer. He's just going to be, I'm telling you, in the next few years, he's just going to be one of those guys where you're talking about Devontae, you're talking about Josh Jacobs, and then you're going to throw Michael Mayer's name in there just because he's so efficient when it comes to when he has an opportunity, he's going to go get it.
Yeah. And you know what I noticed with Dave Z and McDaniels, like the second off season, they like players that are versatile. Yeah. And you could see a theme like if you look at like Tyree Wilson, and we'll get into him in a little bit, but like versatile. You look at a guy that I just named my favorite pick in the draft, Bennett, corner, he's versatile. He plays inside, he plays outside.
Yep.
A guy like Michael Mayer, all around tight end. He could block. He has potential to be a good blocker, and obviously he could hit you in the passing game. And that's what the Raiders are looking for, because if you look at some of the tight ends that went maybe above or earlier than they're more pass heavy type, pass receiving tight ends. You know what I mean? Not really blocker, not known as blockers, but a guy like Mayer, he has that potential to be a good blocker and a good receiving tight end.
Yeah, he's just going to be all around. And I know he gets like the little Gronk comparisons, and I see it when it comes to his physicality, especially at the catch point. I mean, I don't care who you put on him. He's going to go up there and just outman you. But no, I don't think it's Gronkowski I don't think he's as elusive as Gronk was, if that makes sense. But his short area attack, like his ability to attack in short range, which the Raiders offense does a lot, he can make that first guy miss. And a lot of it has to do with his physicality. A lot of these corners and a lot of these safeties that are going to get matched up with him, they're going to make a business decision when they come up to hit him. And especially if there's a little bit of open space. And on film, when you watch Michael Mayer, there's a lot of corners that are like, I'm checking out of this one. So they make a business decision. They don't do a clean tackle. And that's where he really gets his rack ability from. He's got a nasty stiff arm. So he plays so physical that people don't necessarily want to tackle him. And that's where you're going to see him get that rack in this offense.
Yeah. And another thing I noticed in the draft too as well is the fact that like a lot of these pickups, they had a lot of ball production.
Yeah.
And Dave Z talked about it in an interview where he made it a point to actually go after players, because the Raiders, let's be honest, like we don't force a lot of turnovers. We don't get and that's something that you have to do to win in this league. You're going to have a defense that forces turnovers, you know what I mean, that able to get their hands on that football, so to speak. So I think that the Raiders, they put a focus on that. And guys like like guys that we just mentioned, Jacorius Bennett, even a guy that we didn't get a chance to talk about, Christopher Smith. What are your thoughts on him, safety?
I like him. The fact that we grabbed him the 5th round, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
5th round.
Yeah, the fact that we were able to grab him in the 5th, that to me, as soon as that pick was in, I was just kind of blown away. These are the type of picks that when you look back later on, 2-3 years down the road, you're gonna look back and be like, man, Chris Smith, like, how is he sitting there at the 5th? And I know he might not have the 40 measurables and in the combine, he might have not looked the best in a t-shirt and shorts. You click on the film though, this is a high football IQ player. This is a guy, we run the 4-2-5 over here in Las Vegas. So we're going to have those 3 safety sets, and you're going to have Marcus Epps, Trayvon Merrick, and you're going to have Chris Smith on the field at the same time. So I like his ability to kind of stay in the back and read the quarterback's eyes. I'd like to see Trayvon Merrick get lined up with running backs a lot more, because I think he's a really good, solid tackler behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So getting Trayvon Merrick maybe more down into the box, covering those backs, and then Marcus Epps, let him kind of be that mentor back there with Chris Smith. And man, I not to say that they're going to be elite. I don't think that at all, but I think that they're going to be a good unit. And I think if the front 7, which I think the Raiders are trying to put an emphasis on, if this front 7 can come together like they're trying to do out there in the desert, I think the back half of this defense might kind of overperform to what the expectations are right now.
Yeah, and another thing I noticed too as well is the fact that the Raiders were able to get a lot of players that they scouted in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah,
I think it was about like 5 players that they drafted. I don't know anybody in the chat could put the final numbers in here, but I know that at least 5 players were drafted that they drafted played in the Senior Bowl, which tells you a lot how that was a big key for them when they were drafting players. They wanted to see how players that they scouted in the Senior Bowl, how they responded to coaching. Because let's be honest, they have a certain type that they're looking for.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean, a certain type of player, and they want to make sure that they could get that type of player. The talent is important, but obviously they want to make sure that they get that player that can fit in that. I don't want to call it Patriots culture, but like,
don't do it.
I'm not gonna do it, man. It just flips up every now and then, man, because it just come on. But
here's the thing with not to interrupt you, but here's the thing with the whole like the Patriot way thing. It's like, if we were to bring in another coach from any other organization, right? Let's use the Buffalo Bills. If we would have hired a coach and they came in here and they were the head coach, we'd be like, hey, you know what? They're trying to bring in and kind of do what they did in Buffalo. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody on every single platform, when they hire a coach and he gets brought in and you're like, oh, we're doing it you know, how they did out in Buffalo, and you sign guys that are familiar. But it's like at the moment the Raiders hire somebody from the Patriots and we say, oh, this is how they did it over in New England, it's a big issue all of a sudden. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of funny. Obviously, these coaching staffs are going to do what they did in the previous regime. We just happened to hire a former Patriot.
And just to go back to what I said earlier about the Senior Bowl being a big impact on the Raiders drafting players. So they did draft 5 players, 4 defensive players, 1 offensive player. D tackle Byron Young. We didn't get a chance to talk about him. Obviously, I talked about Jacorian Bennett. Christopher Smith, we talked about him. The 7th round pick, Nesta Jade Silvera, and wide receiver Trey Tucker in the 3rd round. We'll get into him. We'll talk about him in a second too. And bonus, he wasn't drafted, but the rookie free agent McClendon Curtis, tackle, guard. You know what I mean? Some people project him to be a guard. Another guy that we picked up as a rookie free agent, pretty much as an undrafted free agent. So the Senior Bowl was a huge impact on the Raiders drafting players.
Yeah, you got to take advantage of that when you have the opportunity to coach a Senior Bowl. And I'm sure Patrick Graham was extremely happy because what better way to find some later round defensive help? Let's be honest. I mean, they've kind of neglected Patrick Graham since he's been here in Las Vegas. So for him to get any type of up when it comes to bringing in rookies to kind of fit his system, I'm happy that they took full advantage of that. And no, I love to see it. It was pretty much as expected. I don't know if we necessarily touched on it on the show, but yeah, it's kind of when you coach the Senior Bowl, you're going to come away with quite a few players.
Right. And if you guys are just joining us, we just gave everybody our favorite picks of the draft. I picked Jacorian Bennett. I didn't want to go for the cliche, Tyree Wilson is our favorite pick. Obviously, he was picked in the 1st round, so obviously he's the number 7 pick. He's talented. But we wanted to go a different route by talking about players that we feel like can possibly impact the Raiders. And for me, it was Jacorian Bennett, cornerback. And obviously, you know, Ray, he went for the tight end. He went for the cliche, but hey, it was a great value pick in the 2nd round. So that was his favorite pick. But let's get to the other side of the other side of the coin, the most questionable Raider picks. And let's start with you, man.
Yeah, I might be a little controversial here. For me personally, and I know that the offense has been lacking this, and it's been speed, but the Trey Tucker, to me, that was a bit of a reach. Okay. I felt like you could kind of get him in the 5th. I didn't feel the same way about Tucker as I did Bennett. I kind of understood Bennett, and I could kind of see where they were going with that. The Trey Tucker one, to me personally, this is what I think happened. I think the Raiders got in there on the draft board. I think Josh Downs goes to Indianapolis, and Zay Flowers comes off the board, and I think you're sitting there, and Josh McDaniels is like, if I don't take Trey Tucker here, by the time we get to our next pick, because I believe Aiden O'Connell or somebody was there after that, or it might have been Jacorian Bennett. I forget how it was. It was one of those orders, but I think just
Trey Tucker went in the 3rd. He was our last pick in the 3rd round because we had 2. And then the next pick was in the 4th round. We picked Bennett. We traded up to get
Yeah, I think it was just how the board was going. They were going to say, hey, this is the best slot guy on the board right now. And if we wait, because there was a specific mold that they wanted to go. I do believe Josh Downs was their player. And Tank Dell was the one that went right before the pick. And I think Tank Dell was the pick. I think the Raiders wanted to take Tank Dell and write the team, because Dave Ziegler addressed it in his press conference. He said, we had a few guys on the board and then some teams moved up and they took them right before our pick. Well, the only time that necessarily happened was when Tank Dell went right the pick before, and then the Raiders take another slot. So I don't think that Trey Tucker was the pick at that point. It was Tank Dell, but the way that the board was falling, slot receivers were going, and they're like, hey, we got to go get this guy. He offers return ability. He's got the 4.3 speed.
Yeah.
To me, I'm not I know that there's a lot of guys that are high on him. Me, I'm just taking that wait and see approach. I'm not going to put any type of expectation on this young man. How is he going to handle physical press corners, at the next level? Is that speed going to be able to translate to the field when a guy is jamming you, and can you get creative with your footwork? I know he has really good footwork and the ability to separate, but until I see it at the next level, I can't just say that's what he's going to be. So for me, Trey Tucker, I get the measurables, I get the speed. I like his special teams ability. That's where I would say right now, but I don't think Philip Dorsett is just going to bend the knee to him. You know, I think Philip Dorsett still offers some speed, some value. He knows the scheme, he knows the system. So I think Trey Tucker might be in a little bit of a battle there.
Yes, it's funny that you pointed out, you said Tank Dell, because Tank Dell was also in the Senior Bowl. So I'm sure the Raiders coach and staff, they had a good look at Tank Dell, and the fact that was a good observation. The fact that he went up, you said a pick before.
Yeah, he went literally the pick before, and I think that's who the Raiders were actually going to want to grab.
And I thought it was interesting. We're going to talk about Peter King and some of the things that he said in his in his article, and we'll touch on it. But one of the things that he did say was the fact that like the Raiders had Jalen Hyatt as one of their top 2 or 3 prospects after the first round.
Yeah.
So they could have went first round. They literally passed on Jalen Hyatt like 2 or 3 different times, which was interesting. You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, they could have had Michael Mayer higher than, but they focused on need. Because if you think about it, they could have got Hyatt in the 3rd round but Byron Young was the pick, and obviously Trey Tucker. I think he went at some point in the 3rd round. I think Jalen Hyatt, I don't know if anybody knows in the chat, like I think around 70 something. But hey, they could have got him in 2 different spots. And that tells you that teams, when they say they're going to take the best player available, they don't really mean that. They don't really mean that.
Well, some teams do mean it. I think that, like when you look at Philadelphia, I think they were taking, you know, the best player that was on the board, Nolan Smith at 30 or 30, whatever it was. Jalen Carter was sitting there on the board. But I think the Raiders have so many needs on this team. We weren't 1 draft away. Matter of fact, we still need another draft, and we still need another free agency class before I feel confident that the Raiders are going to go on this crazy run. Like the roster is not finished. It's not complete. They're not done adding bodies.
Yeah.
I like that they addressed some needs. Defensive tackle is a huge need. And I liked Byron Young. I don't know if it's okay to jump into him real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
But no, I at first, you know, everybody was so critical about the Byron Young pick. Out of defensive tackle out of Alabama, but you're talking about the 2nd most pressures in FBS football behind Jalen Carter among the defensive tackle room. And I know that sacks doesn't really translate. You could talk about the scheme and the system that he has over there in Alabama, but when you're scouting players, you have to look at pressure rate. I almost look at pressure rate more than I do the sack rate, because pressure shows me consistency, that they're getting disruptive in the background. That's why I like the guy like Jose Ramirez. That's why I like the guy like Kobe Turner. These guys were consistent in creating pressures, and those guys went to their respective ball clubs, and I think that they're going to be really good pros. But Byron Young fitting in this scheme and system, I just think you've put so much talent up front that Byron's in a really good situation. He could go out there, pin his ears back, and kind of get creative, and he can kind of be an unsung hero, if you want to say, along the defensive line, because there's going to be only so many guys that you can block and double on this defensive line. And I'm just excited to see his upside. Everybody always says he's just a run defender. I don't think Byron Young is just a run defender. I knew he offered more when it came to the pass rush, just based off of the pressure rate. But everybody go follow Raid the Tape. He did a good breakdown of Byron Young and kind of put on film, on screen for you, his ability to create a pass rush. So I like Byron Young, and I think it's something that this defense really needed. A lot of people might say it's a reach, but I don't necessarily think it's a reach.
I think, hey, at the end of the day, like we don't know what the Raiders board was. They probably had them really high. Who knows? But I'm just going by what Peter King said in that article, where he said Jalen Hyatt was the top 2 or 3 prospect after the first round, which tells me like, okay, this guy was clearly one of the best guys they had left, and they went for need. They went tight end, they went D tackle. As far as Byron Young, I did think he went a little bit earlier than I think he was going to be, but hey, we don't know the people's draft board. There were so many picks in the first round in the drafting period where we're like, oh, he went this early. Like what? Like, you know what I mean? We kind of were thrown off a little bit. But you made a good point about pressure rate, because one of the weaknesses of Ngakwe was the fact that he would disappear for stretches. So he would get the final sack numbers. So I think last season he finished with 9.5 sacks. But he was one of the worst, I think, in that particular stat as far as pass win rate. Like so which tells you he disappears for a lot of stretches. And obviously his other weakness is stopping the run, setting the edge. But the other weakness, obviously, is the fact that he didn't really get consistent pass rush as much as you wanted him to. And that was a good observation on him. So I hope he works out, man, because I know coming in, he's going to be a good run defender. I think he needs to develop.
Yeah. And I think he's a worker. You know what I mean? And when you look at you were talking about there's ball production in this draft class. There's also leadership and work ethic. When I go down and I look at all these draft picks outside of maybe, even the 7th round, the defensive tackle that we took in the 7th round. I mean, when you do his back history, and shout out to Q Myers, host of the Locked On Raiders podcast. If you guys haven't or aren't aware of the Locked On Raiders podcast, go and listen to Q Myers. He had an interview with the guy who covers Miami, and kind of covered the defensive tackle like a glove. And he's just a hard worker, man. He gets coaches that aren't his own coaches and brings them in and tries getting coached up from every angle, plays with a little bit of attitude. So I really like the production that they got out of this draft class. I think these might be we'll look back in a few years, and a few of these players are going to be that foundational core of the new direction that the Raiders are moving. So overall, man, I really kind of like it. What did you feel about?
So let me just say my questionable pick, because I know you said Trey Tucker. I agree with that 100%. That was kind of my pick, but obviously, just to give another player that I was kind of like, Aiden O'Connell. Yeah. I'm not super excited about Aiden O'Connell. I think his potential is pretty much high end potential. I think it's just a high end backup. You know what I mean? Like his ceiling is a high end backup, because in today's NFL, you got to move back there. You can't be a stationary target. The D line is too athletic. The D line today, maybe back in the day, you know what I mean? It was a different story. But today's NFL, but I will say this: I'm not gonna say that it's a terrible pick. But, it is a good system fit. I know that he's really good in the intermediate part of the field. He's really accurate. He's a quick decision maker. Obviously, these are things that McDaniels values, and they needed it. The fact that they had to trade up to get kind of just makes it like, oh my God, are you like? But hey, you can kind of compare it to Stidham. Not that they're similar players, but the fact that they kind of drafted in the same area of the draft, and they kind of developed into really good backups. And that's what the Patriots do, and obviously McDaniels. That your mic's out. Your mic's out. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my guy. Aiden O'Connell was kind of like, oh my God, like
I remember texting you. Remember, and at first I hated the pick. I hated it. I went and watched the Purdue football.
Yeah.
And then when I started watching Aiden O'Connell, I'm like, this screams Josh McDaniels type of quarterback. And what scares me about this is I don't want Josh McDaniels to be the head coach that falls behind the trends in the National Football League and the direction that we're going. So look, I'm not going to be overly critical on Aiden O'Connell because I have a different flavor of quarterback that I like. So me personally, I like a guy who can create with his legs. That's why, I was huge on Anthony Richardson. Everybody who follows this, I was huge on him because that's my style of quarterback. Aiden O'Connell is Josh McDaniels' style of quarterback through and through. And I will say this, as he's not athletic as stretching the field vertically, he's not going to take off and start burning everybody. Laterally, though, inside the pocket, I will say he has decent footwork. So he's able to avoid in the chaos inside the pocket and, boom, get the ball out to where it needs to go, which is why I think Josh McDaniels is going to like him. Yeah. Because he does maneuver well inside the pocket. But, man, I don't like to compare anybody to Tom Brady or anything. He's not my player comp. But I will say when it came to, footwork and release, I will say there's a lot of times where I just had to pause the frame and I'm like, man, that looks like Tom. It really does. So I could see why they went out and got him. I'm not ecstatic on it. I feel better about it than what I did when I was watching the draft live. But no, man, this is a guy, he's going to bite down on his mouthpiece. He's going to launch the football. He did have the most turnover worthy plays in FBS, which tells you he's not gun shy. He's a gunslinger. He's going to put the ball. He's going to give his receivers opportunities. And obviously, name one offensive player in Purdue. I can't. So the fact that he's going to be in an offense like this with the best talent he's ever received, we'll see, because I think at some point we're going to see Aiden O'Connell take the field at some point this year.
Yeah, I mean, especially what you kind of almost have to got to expect it with the injury history of Jimmy G.
Yeah,
but they definitely wanted to add something to that quarterback room, especially if Jimmy G gets hurt. They wanted someone that they can like bring in on the field. You know, I don't have any problem with it. It's not as bad, but I just Trey Tucker was my number one pick, especially because he's really small.
Yeah.
He's
look,
like,
I know a lot of people are going to
5'8".
come, you know, and look, you don't know, I don't know, the consensus doesn't know, the national media doesn't know how these guys would fall on boards. Like, so when I came out earlier and I said, hey, I think you could have got Trey Tucker later, I could be 100% wrong, right? He could have gone a pick later, and I could be wrong. I was just saying how the board was falling in my favor, like how I was viewing it. I thought maybe you could get him later, but hey, maybe you miss out on a Bennett, you know what I mean, next round. Maybe you miss out on him. So look, it's not up to me of how the board fell or who they take. If Trey Tucker falls to them and he fits what they're going to do, then I don't have any problem with it, you know? So it's just how every pick can be judged based off of how the coaching staff is going to use those players.
Right.
You know what I mean? You could get the biggest and best name that's on the board. You know, I know everybody's like, oh, you know, Keely Ringo is on the board. Why aren't we drafting him at the cornerback position? Well, he came from a predominantly zone defense, something that the Raiders don't run a whole lot. So, yeah, he probably wasn't on the Raiders board. And if they were to get him in that system and that pick failed, then, you know, then it just doesn't look good for the coaching staff. So if they took these players and they feel confident that they could plug them in, coach these guys up, I don't care what the name is or what school they came from. All I care about is getting production out of these players.
That's true. But then it kind of sucks that, like, if Tank Dell was their guy and they kind of settled, you know what I mean? Like,
I know.
Dell was our guy.
But here's the thing. Are we looking at him to actually be a dominant slot player? Or are we looking for a guy to return punts? Maybe they were looking at this as, hey, this could be a special teams ace in our room. And maybe him and Philip Dorsett are going to be up there competing. Because outside of those two, I don't really necessarily know. I'm not trying to see Hunter Renfrow anymore, you know, returning punts. So kickoff return and punt return, that's definitely a competition for the Raiders this year.
Facts. So we talked about pretty much the majority of the draft. I mean, there's some other players that we didn't mention. We didn't mention the 7th round pick, D tackle, but you know, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. That's a guy that's probably going to have to. He's going to have to try to make the team. You know, 7th round picks can get cut. So
yeah.
But let's get into the 1st round pick, Tyree Wilson, man, and let's talk about the pros and cons of Tyree Wilson, because there's some pros for sure, and there's definitely some cons.
Yeah. So if you guys were tuning in with the draft with us, you got my instant reaction, and be patient with me, Raider Nation, because it's going to take me a minute, because I'm going to tell you everything. I spent the last week watching film on Tyree Wilson just to come away with my own solid opinion, my own solid take, give you guys the pros and cons of this prospect. So Tyree Wilson is still my number one edge player consensus on the board. I think he has the highest upside, and I say he's my number one edge because of the traits that he has. When you turn on the TCU film, you turn on the NC State, there's things that I love, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is why the Raiders took him. So I'm going to get into the cons first, and then we're going to go into the pros, because I want to finish on a high note with Tyree.
Okay.
The cons for me, and they're pretty evident, sometimes he does not use his length. Now, he has his 86-inch wingspan, and there's times where he engages with tackles to where he doesn't engage until he's already in the chest of the tackle, which nullifies his strength immediately, which, boom, it gives edge to the tackle immediately. There's too many of those plays that I've seen that I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that you're getting in his face. I would much rather him get his hands on the tackle first. You know, there's all that talk about him not being explosive with his first step. I'm not so much concerned about his explosiveness with his first step, because this is a 275-pound defensive end. And when you have length that he has, which, I mean, it's over a 7-foot wingspan, I don't need you to have such an explosive get off, because you have the length to engage first, if that makes sense. So you can make up with that explosiveness. He's not a 255-pound outside linebacker defensive end. This isn't a Khalil Mack. Okay, this is a much longer prospect. So his explosiveness doesn't necessarily have to be there for me. He has the length to engage first. It's using that length properly. It's engaging, disengaging, and getting after the quarterback. So cons to me is I've seen him too many times getting into the chest of tackles, not using his length. There is a con as well, but I don't necessarily just want to put it on him, because, look, Texas was using him in every aspect. Texas Tech needed him to do everything for them. He needed to set the edge. He needed to be the pass rusher. He needed to be, he had to sniff out the screenplays. He had to drop in coverage. I mean, he had to do everything for that defense. And I think at the next level, he's going to be able to kind of relax, pin his ears back. He's still going to have to set an edge for the Raiders. He is going to have to move on the interior as a pass rusher. But I think he might be simplified a little bit and not have to do as much, which kind of took him out of the production for me for Texas Tech. Like when I was watching him, I was like, there's too many plays that they need him to completely close the running lanes on this side of the field, and it kind of nullifies his talent. So at the next level, I just kind of want to see him getting a more simplified role, at least early on. And then as he develops in the National Football League, then that role can kind of expand when Chandler Jones is gone.
Perfect situation, though.
Perfect situation for him. But those are the kind of the cons. So the explosiveness, yeah, I get it. But at the next level, I'm still looking to add maybe even 10 pounds of muscle to Tyree's frame. Like he's going to be a 280-pound edge, and he's going to be able to set the edge with his length, stop the run. I think that's the long-term view for them at this position. Moving over into the cons, he does things that just look unhuman at times. And when he actually uses his length, the pros, yeah.
Right.
My fault. Yeah. The pros, when he actually uses his length, and he gets a hold of a tackle or a guard early on, and he's able to use this power, or what I notice is he likes to use this bull rush power for the first whole quarter in TCU, he was working this tackle with a bull rush power, almost half of the whole first quarter. And then he started switching it to an inside swim move. And the inside swim move was a perfect setup for his skill set. He's so long. And every time he was using this inside swim, it just looked so natural. It looked so good. He was getting after the quarterback. And now that I'm talking about it, it kind of reverts me back to a con that I didn't address. Do you remember Arden Key? And this kind of goes to the explosiveness on the offense, on the defensive line. Very explosive first step. But what happened with Arden Key? He had a very explosive first step, but it was finishing his tackles. Do you remember all the time he had an opportunity to sack the quarterback or get the running back behind, and he would miss the tackles? Tyree Wilson has some of that. He relies on his length, and he doesn't finish sacks. He could have had 11 sacks this year, but he couldn't finish the sacks.
He finished with 7, right?
He finished with 7, and he had a foot injury, so he would have definitely hit over double digits. I'm not worried about that. Okay. And I'm not even necessarily worried about the sack total in general. It's just when it comes to finishing plays, that's what I'm looking for. And there's so many plays that he could have finished and got a hold of the quarterback and got him down to the ground, or a running back behind the line of scrimmage. So at the next level, I'm really looking to see him finish up and clean up those tackles, because if he can do that, he's going to separate himself among the other rookies. But to kind of move back into the pros, man, his length is special. And I think that's why the Raiders really took him, because if you can get him to engage with his length, get disruptive. He's constantly disruptive when he's asked to pass rush. There's a lot to like about him.
No, facts, 100%. I agree. He's a little bit raw coming out.
Yeah,
100%. He got away with a lot in college, just by being an athletic freak. And even Dave Z admitted it, and even Tyree Wilson could kind of came to that conclusion as well. Like he needs to work on his game. He needs to improve a little bit, because what worked in college he's probably not going to get away with it in the NFL.
No,
he's going to have a pass rush plan. He's going to have to, he's going to have to, like, I think a lot of people kind of were pointing to his lack of explosion. I think that's something that he could improve on. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially when you got guys like Chandler Jones, who's not really known to be super athletic, but he could time his snap. You know what I mean? Play recognition. There's so much things that he can work on and get better at, and his ceiling is so high, because with all that being said, he was still a top pass rusher coming out. And earlier you talked about I think it was like pass rush run rate.
Yeah.
That's something he was top 10 in college football.
Yep.
And we're talking about him not being able to do this and that, and his technique is not really there, but he was able to be top 10 in pass. That's telling you that he was able to consistently get pressure. maybe not finish as much as you can, but a lot of those things that you're talking about is a lot of his cons. What I'm trying to say can be improved upon. So for the Raiders,
100%.
It's almost like a perfect situation. He's coming to the Raiders, and he has Max Crosby, he has Chandler Jones, been there, done it, and that's like a player comp for him too as well. Chandler Jones, like a lot of people compare him, which what I thought was interesting because I was reading up on him as well and looking up a lot of things about him. And there was an executive. I should have sent this to you, but there was an executive that was comparing him to Myles Garrett.
Oh yeah, I heard that comparison. That's a big comparison.
Myles Garrett.
I will say definitely not coming out. I see the projection though, and you talked about the pass rush win rate, and it's like he was asked to rush the passer over at Texas Tech, but like I said, he was asked to do a lot of stuff. He wasn't just like, hey, pin your ears back and go get the quarterback every play. Right. He was their Khalil Mack. He was their Max Crosby. He had to do everything. So I think at the next level, like you nailed it on that. Like when he was asked to rush the passer, it looked good most of the time. You know what I mean? There were times where I feel like he was going up against guys in the reps that he was losing. It's because he put himself in that position to lose. It wasn't just like this guy came out here and just put Tyree in the dirt. It was like, no, Tyree, like you tried to bull rush this guy without using your length. And now you're in the chest of a guy who has shorter arms than you. And now you can't extend and bull rush and get the power that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. So he almost like was beating himself in a lot of reps of what I was watching. And those were the things where I was like, okay, that is completely coachable. I don't like it right now, but if he can get coached up at the next level with Chandler, with Max, this guy's going to be a problem for a lot of teams.
No, facts. I'm happy with the pick. I'm not mad at it.
No.
Like if his cons are literally like improvable. Like these are not cons. Well, I will say this. This is one con that we didn't mention. He's coming into the league hurt.
Yep.
And it was to the point where there's a reason why he dropped. Because people were projecting him to go like top 5, top 3 that I've seen at the highest. And the fact that he dropped to 7 was crazy. But he did have a foot injury, and he's still not 100% healthy. They're saying that he's going to be ready by training camp, but he's coming into the league hurt, and some teams were concerned that this is going to be an injury where he's going to have another surgery. So what calmed the Raiders down, what made the Raiders comfortable, I think I was reading up on this. I think the surgeon that did the surgery on his foot sent a letter to every team to let him know like how well the surgery went, and you guys don't have to worry about it, yada yada yada. So, and then obviously the Raiders did their due diligence, but that is kind of concerning. You know what I mean? Hey, look, as a Raider fan, we've seen everything. We've seen typical busts. We've seen off-field issues. We've seen players get hurt. So that's something to keep an eye on. Like he's not 100%. He is not 100%.
No, yeah, and that's concerning too. And hey, you don't know how long he was dealing with that foot injury. So everybody's talking about like that explosive burst. You never know. That foot could have been lingering prior to it being a significant problem. So that could have an effect on his explosiveness at the line of scrimmage. I even went back and watched some of the 2021 tape. What encouraged me is Tyree definitely developed from 2021 to 2022. He took a jump, and he was asked to do a lot more, and he kind of embellished that role. A Locked On Raiders podcast with Q Myers, he had a guest on covering Texas Tech, and he talked about the leadership that Tyree Wilson brings. And if a guy wasn't practicing right, or if there was a problem in practice, Tyree would go to the locker room, pull that player's card off of the locker, and personally have a sit-down talk with that player. Mm-hmm. And for nobody to come out and say that, and that just be who Tyree is behind the line of scrimmage, like behind the scenes in the locker room, I love that. You know what I mean? I love that this guy is a natural-born leader. If you're not playing up to your standard, he's going to go and address it and do it in a professional way. I love that leadership personally, and I think fitting in with Chandler Jones and Max Crosby, it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, and Tyree, and the thing about Tyree too, I'm not really expecting him to be a huge contributor right off the bat. There's a good chance that he will be, but there's power rushers typically don't really come out the gate getting like 10, 15 sacks. He's a power rusher. If you remember Khalil Mack, even though they're two different type of players, Khalil Mack is a power rusher. And how many sacks did he have his first year? 4 sacks.
Yeah. No,
So
I'm not putting any type of projection on Tyree. That's what I think Raider Nation, let's be careful moving into this season, putting any type of projection on Tyree, like, oh, double-digit stat guy. Let him find his element here. Let him take this year, learn the system, get caught up with the NFL speed, develop his hands, develop his pass rush setups, all the things that go behind all the numbers. Let him develop those things. Don't put any type of projection on him. I know he was a top 7 pick, and he's anytime you take a player in the top 7, you're looking for him to come in and produce. He's going to come in and produce, but be patient with him. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that patient word.
Yeah.
But be patient with Tyree, because if you be patient, you coach him up the right way, you're looking at a really, really, really good football player, and there's a lot of upside there. So, no, I agree with you 100%, Pharaoh. Let's not put any type of huge expectation on this kid.
Nah, not at all. Not at all. But not to cut you off, but Jack, man, I appreciate you, man. With the super chat, he says, Pharaoh and Ray, just because went back and hit the likes on every show from you both. Never stop putting out content. Hey, man, I appreciate that. Bringing Raid on fit. Hey, Raid is welcome anytime. I mean, Raid is one of the guys that we
definitely a friend of the show.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like he said, man, make sure to hit that like button. Hey, the timing is better this week. I remember I was like struggling. I'm getting better, y'all. I'm getting better. My timing is getting a little better. The sound effects is going to be on point. I'm telling y'all. But yeah, man, Jack, I appreciate you for the super chat. And we're going to get into the chat as well, man. You guys are going crazy over here. We got Super Omicron. He says, I think Trey Tucker might be a steal, but we'll see. I know Christopher Smith II will work out at safety. That's an instinctive type big play DB. Hey, I'll take it. I think Dave Z kind of compared him to Duron Harmon, and I like Duron Harmon. You seen how Duron Harmon just comes in here, all he does is make big plays at the end of the games, gets pick sixes all the way to the house. So I'll take that production on a cheap on a cheap rookie contract. But you said Trey Tucker might be a steal. Okay. A lot of people comparing him to Jacoby Ford. I don't know if he's smaller than Jacoby. That's the crazy thing. He's smaller. I know. Smaller arms.
I didn't like that comp either, to be honest with you.
But it's explosive wise, yeah. Both
explosiveness, yeah. But
30 plus inch vertical. But man, short arms. Short person overall. It's just like, man, like that. You're kind of a small. Your catch radius is pretty small.
Yeah.
So there's only so many plays that the Raiders could run. But my guy, Port Adelaide Raiders, says, I agree on your take on Wilson. Just add, I see him playing inside a lot first year as a rotational guy on the edge. Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Because we don't have to. It's not a situation where we're desperate to put someone on the outside. Like Chandler Jones, an experienced pass rusher. He's going to be getting paid next year, so he's going to be starting. There is a possibility that he might get up to speed quick and take some reps. But I think it's going to be Chandler Jones. And then, obviously sprinkle in some Tyree Wilson. Jack says, Arden Key, third round pick, LSU. Arden is the key. Hey, when he left the Raiders, man, he chose to be productive. I mean, obviously, when you go to the Niners defense, all you do is like that defense is so talented, so it's easy for him. But then he goes to the Jaguars and plays well. And I know he's playing for the Titans now. So, it is what it is, man. Let's get back to it right now. Let's see.
Arden had upside. He really did. It's just with the Raiders, like he could not finish. He could not wrap up tackles. It was just If he could wrap, honestly, everybody would have been like trying to keep Arden Key around, but he just
we were waiting for it every year. We were waiting for it, but it just never happened. ONT6, the doctors okayed him. So you're talking about Wilson. Doctors okayed him. Their own doctors okayed him. Yeah. I seen that too, but it is a little bit concerning though. Hey, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I'm a Raider fan, just like y'all are. And when I hear certain executives being concerned that he's gonna have another surgery, there's a reason why he dropped to number 7. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and foot injuries are odd with me too. Like those are injuries that can kind of linger a little bit because you're constantly on your feet all the time. So if he doesn't, if this rehab, if this him trying to recover from this foot injury, if that doesn't go 110% healed all the way, it's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And you know what? To me, it was a solid draft overall. And you know what? I'm gonna share something real quick here. And I asked earlier. what did you guys think that this offseason has it been a success or a failure? And I just wanted to show you guys the numbers and how Raider Nation is feeling right now. Hold on 1 second. I just had it on. Share screen. Boom. Let's see. Is it this one?
And everybody that's in the building, make sure you smash the like button. Shoot this video up the algorithm. Allow more Raider fans to come and see. And don't forget to subscribe.
Facts. Make sure to hit that like button. But I posed the question earlier. It's too early to tell, but in your opinion, Raider Nation, has this Raiders offseason been a success or a failure? And not just the draft, free agency, the direction with this team, and a lot of y'all like, hey, pretty positive. 100 of y'all voted, said 83% said success, failure. Some of y'all a little bit negative, like not too happy. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on this, man? How do you feel about the Raiders offseason so far?
I like it. I think free agency was underwhelming, but I think it almost had to with all the dead cap hit that we had. I think it's been evident that you don't build a team through free agency. I think everybody wanted a big splashy offseason like we had the year prior when we went out and got Devontae and Chandler. And you could say that a lot of those contracts were okay. Like Deron Harmon, the value for that, I think it was good. Devontae Adams, worth its weight in gold. But then you look at the Chandler Jones contract and they definitely missed. So I don't think that they wanted to make that mistake. So I like the depth. The longer I get away from free agency and just kind of see what they were doing and then see what they did in the draft, they just got good football players and they had to fill a lot of holes on this roster. They had a ton of players leave this team. So you can't just go out there and just sign a bunch of big name contracts. You've got to build the depth. They want to get away. And me personally too, I want to get away from the 1-year deals at some positions. There are positions in the football field where I'm okay with 1-year deals, and then you kind of just pay as you go. Mm-hmm. But I think long term for Dave Ziegler, Josh McDaniels, they want to get away from these 1-year contract deals and really build a team throughout the draft. So I like the talent that they added overall. They got a safety, linebacker, tight end, and Austin Hooper. They went and addressed some issues. So overall, man, I think it was a pretty successful offseason.
I think it's all about expectations. At the end of the day, like me and Ray, we've been saying all offseason that this is pretty much a rebuild. They didn't spend too much in free agency, and they're pretty much going through the draft. And they had 12 picks in the draft. They finished with, I believe, 11. They had 9 picks. 9. It was 9 picks. My bad. 9 picks, which is still a good amount of players on top of the undrafted free agents we haven't even got into, but we brought them in. So they're trying to build this team up. They're trying to bring the young talent in, and I think it's been so far. It's a little early, but I think that from the players that we talked about today, I think that they might have gotten some good players. I think they've gotten at least, to me, in my opinion, at least 3 starters.
Yeah,
3 starters.
I mean, to be honest with you, like. At least 3, but I think like when you look at the draft as a whole, because we talked about they drafted at position of needs. I think Tyree Wilson's a starter. Michael Mayer's a day 1 starter. Byron Young, based off of where the depth chart is right now, I know that's a rotational room. Byron Young is probably a starter. You look at Bennett. Bennett could potentially start in the nickel for them. Keep going down the draft. I mean, Christopher Smith, there's at some point in the season with the 3 safety set that we run, he's a starter. So there's an opportunity. And look, if Trey Tucker is a starter on special teams, if he's your return guy and he's your kick return specialist, you're talking about 5 or 6 players here that could find a starting role at some point in the year. Mm-hmm. And if the Raiders can get it to that point, what a super successful draft that this would be.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap up the draft, we want to get into a recent article. He even talked about it on his podcast. Peter King, he was invited to the Raiders draft room, and this time last year, probably before the draft, actually, Peter King, he had some inside scoop about the Devontae Adams trade, which I thought was pretty good. And now this year, he follows it up with being in the Raiders draft room. McDaniels invited him, which I thought was pretty interesting. And there was a little bit of nuggets, and I'm going to play a little bit of what he found and what he's seen while he was in the draft room. And let me pull this up right here.
Just out of the clear blue sky, he says to Dave Ziegler, you know what we need? we need 3 quarterbacks to be picked in the top 6. So they go back and forth. And so we leave there and I say to McDaniels, what are you talking about? Why do you need 3 quarterbacks to go? And he said, we've basically got 4 players, non-quarterbacks, who are very, very close with their grades. It's almost a pick 'em, basically, with their grades between the offensive tackle at Ohio State, Paris Johnson, between the cornerback from Illinois, Devin Witherspoon, and between the 2 edge players, 2 defensive ends. Obviously, Tyree Wilson of Texas Tech and Will Anderson of Alabama. So they had finished talking and now they were going to go their separate ways before the draft.
So it's y'all can watch it. He has a podcast. Peter King has a podcast as well as a pretty good article that he wrote. So check that out. But I just wanted to play a little bit of it. I thought that was interesting that they were hoping for 3 quarterbacks to get picked because the top prospects on their board weren't quarterbacks. Like he said, it was offensive tackle Paris Johnson, who went the pick before Tyree Wilson. Obviously Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson, and Devin Witherspoon. We've seen all the mock drafts with Devin Witherspoon going to the Raiders. Obviously, number 1 corner in a lot of people's boards. But I thought it was interesting that they didn't have any of the Did you take it as that they didn't have any of the quarterbacks on top of their board, or is the fact that they didn't feel like any of the quarterbacks were going to drop to them?
Yeah, I think it was the latter of that. I don't think they thought any of the quarterbacks were going to drop to them, and I don't think that they were willing to move up to get anybody if it wasn't Bryce Young. So I think the value that you were going to have to pick to give up to even go up and get Anthony Richardson, I think they was a little bit too rich for them based off of their evaluation. But I don't have a problem. I've seen people mad that like, oh, so you just took one of 4 players and Tyree Wilson was probably 4th on your list off the player that you want, and they feel like in some way that's bad value, and I don't think that at all. I think if you got one, the Raiders know where they're sitting. They're not looking to move out, and if you've got 4 players on your big board, and let's be honest, 3 of the 4 went, and if you still got one guy in your top 4 on your board, I think it's a no-brainer. You run and turn the pick in, and I think where Raiders regimes have failed in the past is overthinking these picks, and you start just, you almost put too much on your plate. And I think taking the best player available, I think the best player available on the board at the time, outside of Bijan Robinson, was Tyree Wilson. So run up, turn in that pick, go get a what's going to be a need next year. And this is what good organizations do, is they draft before there's a need, i.e. the Philadelphia Eagles going out and getting, Nolan Smith, and Fletcher Cox is on a 1-year deal. So now you got Jalen Carter coming in. So they're drafting before there's a huge need. And I think Chandler Jones is going to be on the out next year. You go get Tyree Wilson. By the time he's stepping into year 2, he's coming into his own. He's ready to take over. So I like that. And I like the transparency. I like having Peter King in the draft room. I thought that was excellent coverage, excellent analysis, a really intriguing insight to how they viewed this draft and the quarterback prospects. Now, overall, I really liked that.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting because it made a lot of sense, because how many rumors that we hear that the Raiders are going to trade up to get this quarterback, Raiders are going to get this quarterback, but that's exactly what they wanted. Yeah. If this is true, which it is, because this is not a rumor. Peter King was in the draft room, so he literally physically seen their top. Like, he talked to McDaniels and he's seen their top prospects on the board, and they weren't quarterbacks. So I thought that was very interesting. Obviously, I talked about how after the first round, Jalen Hyatt was one of their top prospects, but they went for need. They didn't go for best player available. I know a lot of people like to think that teams like to do that, but they went for need with the tight end Michael Mayer and the D tackle Byron Young. And yeah, man, I thought it was like you said, it was good coverage, man. I love reading stuff like this because it gives us a good look of how the Raiders are being run right now. And it gives us confidence, Raider fans, like, man, like they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I think they came out with a solid draft, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Another thing that I thought was interesting, I didn't get a chance to play it. Like I said, y'all need to check it out. Check out the article, and as well as podcast that he has, Peter King. But he also mentioned how that the Cardinals, who traded from number 3 to 12, called the Raiders and said, "We'll offer you a second round pick."
Yeah.
In order to get from 12 to 7.
Yeah.
But they quickly realized that the Raiders also wanted Johnson, which would have been crazy if the Raiders went with Johnson at pick number 7.
Yeah.
But they felt like they were interested, and guess what? Cardinals traded to number 6, a pick ahead of the Raiders, and obviously the Raiders got Tyree Wilson. What did you think about that? Did you like? In my mind, I'm like, man, it's an extra second round pick.
Yeah, but I mean, who are you going to grab there at 12? Like, I would have to go back and look at the board and kind of see who fell. You know, maybe a Will McDonald. I know he went in that area. He was big on my board. I told you about Will McDonald, about his Senior Bowl.
Yeah. Went to the Jets.
Yeah, and the Jets, I trust them defensively. I think that they build a really good defensive staff. So the fact that they kind of seen it the same way, I liked Will McDonald a lot. And we talked about it, right? We talked about how these defenses in the college, they're really running these odd fronts. You know, they're rushing 3, dropping 8, just because they're trying to stop the spread. So a lot of these guys, they're hard evaluations because you don't know what they're going to be at the next level because the lack of opportunity that they get to rush the passer. But you know what? To get an extra second round pick, to go back to your question, hindsight is always 20/20. You know, we could have pulled that and took a player at 12, and that's cool. But let's say that Tyree Wilson hits, and in 2 to 3 years, you're talking about one of the better young edge prospects in the NFL. I'm kind of happy that the Arizona Cardinals jumped up to 6 to take Paris Johnson, and Tyree kind of fell in our lap.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that it worked out that way. But I do think about that extra second round pick because if you think about it, it was number 33. So it was going to be at the top of the draft. So that means we would have our pick of the litter. But if we're listening to Dave Z and what he says, because obviously they're gonna tell us whatever. You know, they're gonna, oh yeah, he was the top of our board.
Yeah,
he was the guy that we've been targeting all along. But you know, Michael Mayer was the guy that they supposedly were trying to trade up to in the first round and in the first round. And they got denied, but they ended up getting them anyways. But yeah, man, I thought that was interesting as well. But yeah, man, now that the draft is complete, like there's still some positions on this team that are a little bit lacking. Like the linebacker room is
a lot of lacking.
A lot, yeah,
a lot of lacking.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of lacking. I mean, like there's not. There's so much inexperience. There's like you got young players there that don't have a lot of experience. Then you got like players that have been around, but they just don't have a lot of starts. So it's a combination of both. Now, do you see the Raiders upgrading that position before training camp? Before we?
Oh yeah, hey, this roster is far from finished. Like you look at all these players that have 5th-year options decline. The biggest question of the 5th-year option players, I know it's everybody wants to say, oh, all these guys got declined. Who do the Raiders want to go get? Who would be the best fit? And it's, you know, all those things are in consideration. But at the same time, it's like, who do the Raiders want to pay? Because if you take a player that you decline the 5th-year option and you go out there and you make a move for him, expect to pay for him. Just like the Roquan Smith situation, right?
Yeah.
So if Patrick Queen is your guy, which I like Patrick Queen, 23 years old, I think he has a ton of football. I mean, he has a huge upside left.
Yeah.
Are you going to be comfortable paying him $13 million a year? You know, we have a situation with Josh Jacobs right now. You don't want that to get too ugly. Do you want to pay him? Is that necessarily the direction you want to go? Would you be okay with paying a Patrick Queen $13 million and say you move on from a Josh Jacobs and you're not paying a top running back at his position that money? Like, there's a lot that goes into this decision. I would say let's look at the free agent linebacker market first before we look at the 5th-year option players, because those 5th-year option players, though they're cheap now, they're going to cost you some money here next season. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Guys like Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
A lot of people. Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah.
It almost seems like Isaiah Simmons, I don't think they're going to have a chance of like getting him because I don't think the Cardinals are probably going to give up. But I feel like he would probably be a better fit.
He does a lot of things good.
Yeah, and the versatility. He fits that versatile, because if you notice, there's a constant theme with a lot of players that they pick up is versatile. Like, what can they do with, like, in multiple spots? And you know, Isaiah Simmons is like the ultimate chess piece. You know, I guess, you know, Cardinals, they didn't pick up that 5th-year option. Maybe they're not really happy about, or I won't say happy, but they don't maybe feel comfortable paying him that much until he can prove otherwise. I mean, I know he had the green dot last year, which is
they do have that New England connection though. That's what I'll say. If they were to get some trade compensation, some trade value, you might be able to make that work with the Cardinals. Isaiah, you were big on Isaiah Simmons as well coming out. We both like him a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I liked him a lot coming out, but he could play outside. He can play outside. You can bump him in the nickel. He can play safety. He can play linebacker. You ask me, I mean, that's Patrick Graham written all over.
Simmons was the one that forced that fumble on Hunter Renfrow, right, in overtime, and then the rest is history. They won the game on a fumble return, which was,
But it's like, what is his marker going to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A jack of all trades, master of none.
What are you drafting though? What pick? Like, what would you draft? Like, not draft, but
what would I give up?
Trade? Yeah, what would you give up?
I'd give up a fifth, probably.
Fifth or lower? Nothing above a fifth.
I mean,
Raiders are drafting Aiden O'Connell and
yeah, but here's the thing: like the teams know, look, Isaiah Simmons isn't going to garner like a ton of draft capital. He's kind of been hit or miss his whole career. He's coming off the best season of his career. Obviously, you know how I feel about contract years, Pharaoh. I said it about Josh Jacobs at the beginning of the year. I'm just super hesitant on contract year, and Isaiah is heading into a contract year. So I'd give up a fifth. You're probably going to go out there, get a ton of production out of him his contract year. He's probably going to ball out for Arizona or whatever team he lands with.
Yeah.
He's probably going to go out there and ball out, and then he's going to generate a big market. So if you're going to go give away draft compensation, we're going to give up as minimal compensation as possible. And then you'd have to be ready if he hits, because that would be the goal. That's why you make a move like that. If he hits, you got to be willing to pay him. So, and I don't know how much I'm willing to pay Isaiah, even though I really like him as a player.
Yeah. No, I get you. That's the one thing when you trade for players that are on the last year of their deals, you have to pay them. Or sometimes, in some cases, when you trade for them, you literally pay them. You give them that contract. But there's situations like Rocky Sin. The Raiders traded for Rocky Sin. You remember last year?
Yep.
And he was on his last year of his rookie deal, and the Raiders didn't bring him back. The Raiders let him walk to the Ravens. I would like for him to come back, you know what I mean? But they feel pretty comfortable with the room that they have for him to let him walk. I think he got signed 1 year, $6 million. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? I mean, like the Ravens. The Raiders. Do you think the Raiders kind of could have brought him back for like $6 million? At least another year.
That's a tough financially. It's the financial aspect of it that is for me, because is Rock going to be your actual number two? Because you went out and got Duke Shelley, David Long, Brandon Faison. So I kind of like the blend of talent that the Raiders have in the defensive back room, because you've got David Long, you've got Brandon Faison, and you got Nate Hobbs. Those are more of your longer corners. And then you've got the Duke Shelleys, you've got Bennett, you've got a Meek, you've got Tyler Hall that a lot of people tend to forget about, but I'm really high on Tyler Hall. You got him on a 1 year, $1 million extension last season. So you've got these smaller guys, and you got a blend of longer, lanky corners. I don't necessarily think you have to go out there and spend a lot of money right now at that position. I think this coaching staff has shown that they could take a player like a Tyler Hall, like why am I forgetting his name? J.C. Jackson, when he was with New England, undrafted free agent.
Yep.
You've got a Sam Webb who came on for the Raiders last year, decent talent for an undrafted free agent. So I don't think you have to go spend a ton of money at the defensive back position right now. I would rather them go and look at the linebacker room, because that's my biggest concern.
Yeah.
So cornerbacks, I feel okay about. I'm not going to say they're great. I'm not going to say that they're trash. I feel okay about them. And it's really how the Raiders handle this front seven for me.
Okay. All right. So it's a little bit too expensive to trade for, like you outlined, if we're going to trade for some players on these 5th year, contracts that got declined, that means that we're possibly going to have to pay them. Yeah. Now, let's say we don't go the trade route. Okay. We look at free agency.
Okay.
There's a linebacker in free agency that could possibly might be a smart move. Low risk, high reward type move. And it's linebacker Zach Cunningham.
Okay.
He led the league in tackles with 164 in 2020, but the last couple years he's been hurt. He's played with the Texans and the Titans. Now, it could be a situation where the Raiders give him a minimum contract, invite him to training camp. Hey, if he wins the job, he wins outright. Boom, you got a veteran presence, and you're paying him. You're not paying him a lot. I feel like that might be maybe a solid pickup.
No, I can't disagree with you. I think right now, Pharoah, I'm like, you could sign almost anybody for the linebacker room, and I'd probably be pretty happy. To be honest with you, I think we need 2 linebackers minimum. I think we need a guy who can run downhill and really stop the run, similar to that Denzel Perryman role. I know Divine Diablo is actually a really good run defender. It's just consistently staying healthy for him. I like Divine Diablo's upside. It's just health is a big concern for me. And if you lose a Divine Diablo at some point this year and you're relying on Luke Masterson and Darian Butler, the fact that the Raiders didn't make a move in free agency outside of Spillane at the linebacker room, I don't know if they have their eyes on maybe a potential trade that we're kind of talking about, or if they're letting that market kind of settle down a little bit and kind of feel confident that we're going to run a lot of 4-2-5, so we don't need a ton of bodies at that position and spend a lot of money there. But no, Zach, I like your I like that assessment. I would say for me personally too, there's a outside linebacker. I like Leonard Floyd, and I don't know how you feel about Leonard Floyd, but we've been throwing pass rushers at this defensive line, and I think the more you throw pass rushers at this unit, we could use all the pass rushers in the world. So if you could get him on a good deal, that's not crazy, a 1-year deal, 1-year rental, I would like Leonard Floyd in this room as well. In case there's any injuries, you can kind of keep production up, getting after the passer.
Yeah, and this defense is getting rebuilt because Vinny, shout out to Vinny Monsieur, one of the beat writers. He had a tweet. He said 7 players remaining since Dave Z and McDaniels took over. So there's 7 players remaining. Out of those 7 players, 4 players are starters. Obviously, Max Crosby, Morig, Diablo, and Hobbs. So this defense is getting rebuilt as we speak, and I think the D-line got better. I think the secondary, I like I said, I told you I like that Bennett kid, man. I like in free agency we got a couple of DBs that are pretty solid as well. So that DB room is shaping up a little bit. Just the linebacker room is looking real shaky.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably the one position group that I want to see upgrade.
Yeah, I would say that's the weakest. It's the weakest. It's the weakest area on our team for me, and it's not even close.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of forgot to talk about this too as well. Mike Mayock, man.
That was a very good interview.
Sneaky little interview during the draft,
Sneaky
when no
good.
one was looking.
Sneaky
with Chris Long. He has some interesting comments about his time with the Raiders as a GM during the draft, and we'll play a little bit of some of the things that one of the things he said, and I believe he's talking about the 2019 draft, and I'm gonna let it play real quick.
The coaching staff really wanted a defensive lineman. We were picking number 4 that year in 2019, and I knew the first 3 picks were going to be Kyler Murray 1, Bosa 2 to San Francisco, and Quinnen Williams 3 to the Jets. And then 4, Chris, I'm telling you, the morning of the first round, I called John Lynch and tried to move up to 2.
That would have made it easier.
Well, I mean,
right?
Bosa, it's funny because you probably saw Steve Keim the other day was on a show and was talking about Bosa being chirping in the building. Bosa was great. We all loved him. And he told me a variation of what he told Keim. He was leaving our building after the 30 visit. And I said, Nick, we're picking 4. You're not going to be there. He said, well, then you need to move the fuck up, don't you?
I like that.
And I loved him. He was a little bit chirpy and a little bit but in a good way.
Yeah.
And we did. We tried to move up to 2 and didn't get him. We tried to move up to 3 to get Quinnen Williams, and Jets said no. I tried to trade down. Fans always say, well, just move down. Well, you need a friggin' partner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we tried to trade down with everybody, and nobody wanted to come up to 4. Yeah. And I kind of told John the day before the draft that was what was going to happen. We're going to be sitting at 4, not being able to move. here was my take on Klee, Chris, and obviously I was wrong. I was hoping. I think I told you this once, but I'm not.
So hey, y'all need to check that out. It's an interview with Chris Long. It's a pretty good interview. Some interesting stuff that he said. But he goes on, just to fill in what he's about to say. He goes on to compare him. He was hoping that he was going to turn out to be Chris Long, Howie Long's son, and obviously that didn't happen. What I didn't like though is the fact that instead of going with the most talented player, he went with character. And hey, at the end of the day, character is very important. Yeah. But come on, man. We could have went with Josh Allen, obviously a better player. I think the other player that they were considering, he said in that interview, was the D tackle that went to the Bills. I'm trying to think of his name.
Ed Oliver.
Ed Oliver. And I'm like, oh my God, like how do you like that? Come on, man. I understand that they probably like Klee, but come on, you can't take him at number 4, and that's not his fault, and that was Mayock's downfall. Like, and he admitted that was his fault. Like that was his pick, as well as when he came out and said that it was his fault when it came to I think Damon Arnett. He was vouching for Damon Arnett. He did all the backgrounds, and the rest is history. Arnett's not even in the league anymore. But how did you feel about the overall interview that he had with Chris Long?
Oh, the interview as a whole, I thought it was really good because he gave insight to a lot of specifics. Rich Bisaccia and the money situation with the Raiders when they were in Oakland, and John Gruden getting upset because the Rams are signing all these players to guaranteed deals and he can't get any of them because they didn't have the financial situation. I thought the interview was fantastic. So guys, go check out that interview. But I love that the fact that he wears it on his chest a little bit. Hindsight, we know that was a failed draft outside of Josh Jacobs. But sitting at 4, I think everybody's got to understand, like, that's exactly what happened, and that's 100% truthful. Is you have to have a dance partner in the NFL. It's just, well, why didn't the Raiders just move back and take Klee at top 20? Well, nobody wanted to come up to 4. There was nobody there on the board that any team wanted to kind of come up and trade for. And when that happens, you're kind of forced to trust your board and kind of take the best guy. And look, you could look back and say, hey, Ed Oliver was a better player. But look at that time when the Raiders were trying to add to that team, it was also a very depleted team of talent, and they were rebuilding. So when you said that you didn't like character, or you like character, but there's a point to where you take best player available when it comes to talent. I think that they kind of needed that culture change, somebody to buy into the defensive side of the ball, take what the coaches were preaching, and that was Cleve Farrell. And it was a huge reach at 4. They shouldn't have probably gone that direction, but what are you going to do when you're locked into that situation and the decision has to be made, and there's a future and then there's a in the moment type of success where, I could take a player that has a lot better talent and contribute right away, or this long-term image. I would say this, based off of the Damon Arnett, the Henry Ruggs situations, Jonathan Abram, all the failed first-round picks. I mean, Klee at least finished his rookie deal here with the Raiders. So if you could at least take a positive.
And another thing too was that he did also admitted that the John Gruden had final say on all draft picks.
Yep, that was really crucial too.
Final say on all draft picks. Yeah. He had a ton to talk about. He talked about a lot of different aspects, but also Derek Carr. At the end of the 21 season, like Derek Carr was worth more than one first round pick. And that's tough to hear because like we knew that because if the Raiders had a little bit more leverage, we would have got something for Derek Carr. But it's just for him to confirm that, because when he literally said, when I was fielding calls, teams were going to give the Raiders multiple first round picks to get Derek Carr.
And it was the Colts. It was the Colts. So think of how that would have felt. You know what I mean? We would have been saying that, well, we don't know that because if Derek Carr was their quarterback, the record could have been different. So, but still.
Yeah. But definitely an interesting interview. Make sure to check that out, man, with Chris Long. And that was a pretty good interview. But yeah, man, hey, we touched on a lot of different topics. Let's get into the chat. We'll open the lines. You know what I mean? We wanted to talk to y'all at the end of the day, man. We're not trying to be all selfish and just us talk, So the number is on the call-in number is on the screen. As you can see, 628-333-9343. Yeah, call in, man. Let us know your thoughts, man. Like, pretty much your thoughts on the Raiders offseason so far? Has it been a success? Is it what you expected? Any players that you like that the Raiders picked up? Any players moving forward that you feel like the Raiders need to pick up? Let us know your thoughts. As you see the number on the screen, 628-333-9343. In the meantime,
sorry. But as we had transitioned to this and wait for our phone caller, I was wanting to get your opinion on the international transfer that we got from Nigeria. His measurables are outstanding, but how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know a lot too much about him as a player, but I will say that like it's pretty interesting that I guess this is part of the perks of being in that program, and I guess they're trying to encourage more international players to come into the NFL. Is that the I can't even pronounce his name, David Ubaka Ogaha?
Yeah,
man, my bad if I'm mispronouncing it, but I think that he won't count against the 90 man roster.
No.
And even if, let's say, for whatever reason, the Raiders try to go the separate ways and he gets cut, even if he goes on the practice squad, he won't count on the practice squad. So he can be on the practice squad. So it's like a win-win.
Free player. Yeah, it's a free
player.
Yeah.
So strategically speaking, that's like a smart pickup for the Raiders because you never know. And you got a guy like that's not going to count because you know how that NFL works. You know what I mean? It's very strategic. 53-man roster, and like every roster it counts, you know what I mean? So I think that's pretty interesting that I caught. But as far as him as a player, I don't know if you probably could speak to him because I know you're talking about his measurables.
Yeah, his measurables were off the chart. This was a guy that, of the players in this program, this was the one that a lot of the NFL teams wanted, and he happened to go to the Raiders. He doesn't have any football experience, though. I think everybody needs to kind of put that into perspective. So this is literally you're handing the Raiders an unformed, untouched ball of clay. And you're taking measurables and traits and athleticism, and you're saying, hey, this is the best position that I think I could develop you at. And that happens to be defensive end, outside linebacker, which if it's a linebacker and, hey, maybe you can simplify it and you make him see ball, get ball, running back, your job and duty is to contain the outside and just go tackle him. Simplify it. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's got Tyree Wilson, Chandler Jones, Malcolm Kuntz. He's got a huge defensive line to kind of learn from and pick their brain. So I have no expectations. As a matter of fact, Andy with Raiders Football Talk got an interview with him today a few hours ago. I recommend you guys go and check him out.
Dope.
And go check out Andy's interview with him. I thought that was really cool. And just to kind of learn about him, I think it's awesome that the NFL is allowing these players to come in and give them an opportunity. And Andy was opening it up for people to drop questions to ask him. And I dropped the question, hey, look, you have the opportunity of a lifetime to make a Raiders NFL roster. Jakob Johnson, Jermaine Illuminor came from Britain. There's players that have had success in the National Football League coming from overseas. And he has an opportunity of a lifetime to get in a room of potential Hall of Fame player and Chandler Jones with 100+ career sacks. You've got a Max Crosby. You've got Tyree Wilson, a top 7 pick. Like, you have so many people to learn from. How are you looking to take that opportunity and maybe carve out a small role for yourself with the Raiders? And it's really intriguing. You never know what you're going to get when you give a guy an opportunity. So overall, I like it. I think it's cool. And it's just one of those storylines to follow. The National Football League does a great job of creating storylines. So thankfully for the Raiders, it's just a cool storyline to watch in preseason.
It's a definition of low risk, high reward move.
Yeah.
Like the Raiders are not losing getting a guy like that. And hopefully it works out. But Raider Pete says, Mayock finally admitted he was a driving force for Clee. Also, as we figured, Gruden had final say. Facts, 100%. Oh, man, my camera went out. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
No, Mayock finally admitted he was a driving force for Clee. Also, we figured Gruden had final say. Yeah, it's pretty much everything that we knew, right, as that whole regime kind of went on. But it was kind of cool just to hear Mike Mayock say it. And at the same time, he never threw John under the bus, which I thought was extremely professional on his part. He had every opportunity to do so. He didn't. They were a team. They rode in it together. This was how they wanted to build the football team. It didn't work out. And now, they're both gone, and the Raiders are heading in a new direction. So I like that he was able to do that. But even just, I've always appreciated Mike Mayock's genuine transparency of his ability to talk, his relationships and connections throughout the league. He always links up with these good, big time media people, and he does these fantastic interviews and gives you such an in-depth analysis. I like that a lot about Mike Mayock. You back?
I am back. Let me
get perfect
back to it. But yeah, man, hey, let's get to the chat a little bit. But yeah, Mayock, man, it's a lot of it was interesting because it confirmed everything. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you hear about what the Raiders are doing behind the scenes. You hear this guy say this, and you don't really know 100%. You could probably connect the dots, but for him to just go on there and just say, yeah, we feel the calls for Derek Carr, and he was worth multiple first-round picks. Yeah, we wanted to trade up and get Nick Bosa and Quentin Williams, but we were stuck at 4, and it was my call. You know, I thought that was interesting. And then there was another thing that I was thinking about that he said that was interesting. I thought like him confirming that the Raiders really had issues with the money.
Yeah.
And he would get him and John Gruden. This is in the early years. I don't think the Raiders have that issues anymore because they're in Vegas. They got all that money flowing in now. But this is when they were in Oakland. Before they moved, they had money issues. They didn't have cash on hand, so it kind of affected them picking up players. And it was interesting because he said Gruden would go crazy. He was like, "How did he get this?" You know how Gruden is going to be cussing up a storm. And yeah, I thought that was interesting. He confirmed that, so that was interesting because a lot of people were like, "Oh, the Raiders have money. What are you talking about?" And yada yada yada. But he actually came out and said that was a real thing. So.
No, yeah, I thought that was cool too. You can only imagine John Gruden. You know what I mean? How are these guys getting these guys, man?
Yeah,
and just ran.
Right. T Severe says, "Stay away from Devin White. Dude can't cover."
No, I'm out on Devin White. I'm not.
Yeah, especially $20 million a year. Ugh.
No,
that's crazy. Jack Kenneth says Mayock also says that JG controlled the draft. Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about that. He says, Pharaoh, please don't forget my last two. I got you. My bad. Yeah, I got you earlier. Yep. Come on, guy. Hey, I appreciate that. Jack, man. Hey, Jack is a solid dude. Debo in the building says our linebacker, cornerbacks, and safeties are still in need of help. I'm not sold on Shelley. Hope Bennett is the player. Yeah, me too. I mean, hey, look, they got he's a ball of clay. Like I said, he has almost pretty much same measurables as the cornerback that was taken in this first round, his teammate, Deonte Banks. I think Deonte Banks was about like 6'1". That's the only difference if you think about it. They had similar shuttle times. They had similar 40 times. They had similar vertical times. Only difference is obviously, Deonte Banks was like, 6'1", and he's 5'11", which is still not bad size because the number one corner that was taken was Devin Witherspoon, and he was 5'11". So take that for where you want to take it.
And I like Duke Shelley. It's not too often in free agency where there's teams like clamoring, like, bring this guy back, like desperately wanting to bring somebody back. And Minnesota's fan base was desperately wanting Duke Shelley to come back. Yeah. His QBR rate edges everything. I think Duke Shelley's going to bring an attitude to the secondary that the Raiders need.
Right. Leonard Super Omnicron says Leonard Floyd is too expensive.
I mean, he's on the open market. We'll see.
Pass rusher. You can never have enough pass rushers, so I'm not going to be mad at that. But I would say I think our D-line improved. I feel like we got some depth, especially in that D tackle room. We got some. We have the 2 rookies from last year. The Raiders like them. You know what I mean? They drafted them. They like them. They're gonna focus on development. And on top of that, they got Byron Young. So they're gonna add him to the mix. And then you got Tyree Wilson, who's versatile, so you can move around the O-line. So it's like, the D-line, I should say. So that D-line, I think, got a big boost in this draft. Let's see here. Auntie Soldier says, I really don't want to hear anything about us trading for any player or signing any player until we give Josh Jacobs his money. Woo! What is it? Day 100? Day how many?
Yeah, no kidding.
Man, we haven't heard anything. We'll see, man. I do want Josh Jacobs to come back, but it got to be at the right price, man.
Yeah, let's do it right. Anything over 12, I can't. And I love Josh. Everybody knows that. I pound the table for Josh. I want him to get his money, but just for where we're at as a team and to get to where we want to go, anything over 12 is it's starting to get bad territory.
Right. Lafayette says, question is, will the Raiders do it? Got to be a little bit. Lafayette, if you can just restate that question.
That.
Yeah, rephrase that real quick. Just be more specific because we're trying to get back into the chats. This kind of probably from a little bit earlier, but we're just trying to catch up a little. Lafayette, they're on a cheap, but then okay, he's speaking to him right there. All right, let me try to catch up here. Raider Room in the building.
Hey, what's going on, Raider Room?
Hey, man, I appreciate this guy, man. One of the best IGs out there. Yeah. Him and Raider Resistance, man. Those are the two top Raider channels that I subscribe to or follow on IG. So make sure you guys follow him on IG for the latest news and rumors. But salute to you. Raid Tape in the building.
What's going on, Raid?
Let's get Raid Tape up.
Friend of the show, and everybody who doesn't have the Redemption brand, go over there and grab you some Redemption brand.
Yes, man, one of the best Raider merch out there, man. Redemption brand, go ahead and check them out. Yeah, I got my hoodie, I got my hat. I need to get me a shirt because it's summer, you know what I mean. This I'm getting a little hot now. Right now, it's crazy. It's rain. I don't know how it is out there where you at, but out in the Bay Area, like it was raining like the last few days. It's gonna be raining the next couple of days. So we getting the spring showers. But summer's around the corner, so I'm gonna have to get me my Redemption brand tee, my Redemption brand tee. Ray the Tape says, when was the last time we had a corner that ran for?
Hey, maybe a transition corner. The last I could think was, and man, I can't even believe I remember this. Remember when Taiwan Jones
I think one guy has something to say about that.
Just win, baby.
I think Al Davis, that was his specialty, man. Drafting.
Yeah, I think Taiwan Jones might have been the last one, and he converted to defensive back.
No, we drafted a corner that had 4.3, but that's a good question. That's a good question right there. But hey, Ray, you asked the question, but do you know the answer to it? Because I don't know the answer.
I don't know.
I'm trying to think right now. I'm trying to think.
Ray's trying to put us on the spotlight.
Man, T Severe, he says, I want to see how these linebackers do, to be honest. As mentioned by Ray, we're going to run a lot of big nickel with multiple safeties on the field. Palomo and Epps will be playing a big role in the scheme. I heard that Palomo might be transitioning into linebacker.
Yeah, I didn't read about that. So when I seen people started addressing that in the comments, I thought that was kind of interesting. Anytime I see the safety transitioning to linebacker, how many times have we heard that the last few years? The Vine Diablo was that. Now Palomalu, we talked about Jonathan Abram doing that. I think it sounds so easy to do, but I would say it might not have as high as a success rate as what everybody talks about. They're like, oh, he was a former safety, so of course he could cover. You're a safety for a reason, and converting over to linebacker, you might get the assignments, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good cover linebacker. So
yeah. But that might be the answer to maybe their coverage issues. Maybe they feel like maybe a safety covers the linebacker. Well, who knows? But just a friendly little reminder, man. Make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. As well as subscribe to Ray's channel as well. We switch off every week. It's the off season, so it's a little bit slow around this time of season. Usually we go twice a week. During the off season, it's usually once a week. So you want to make sure you subscribe to both of our channels so you can get. So the next time I go live, it's going to be on Ray's channel. So you want to make sure that you subscribe to his channel and hit the like button. And the notification bell is very important as well, because that will notify you anytime we drop new content. It's very important that you hit that button, that notification bell, as well as subscribe and like the button. Do all that stuff, man. It's simple. Just hit the button. You know what I mean? Just hit
Raider Pete says, Ray, the answer is Stanford route.
Let's see. Raider Pete. Let me see if I can. Man, you guys are going wild in the chat. Also, just to plug it a little bit more. Hey, the call-in number, as you can see on the board, is 628-333-9343. Just call in, Raider Nation. Just keep it clean and respectful. But let us know your thoughts on the Raiders draft, the Raiders offseason, players that the Raiders could possibly pick up, between now and training camp, because there's some obvious holes in certain position groups. We talked about the linebacker position. So some guys are not comfortable with the cornerback room or the safety room. But let us know. Let us know your thoughts. The number right there is 628-333-9343. But you were going to say something?
T. Severe also says DeMarcus Van Dyke was the most recent.
DeMarcus Van Dyke. See, that's I feel like we've gotten a corner. He probably didn't make the team.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I feel like we're missing somebody.
DeMarcus Van Dyke, I know he ran a 4.2, and I think Stanford Route ran a 4.2. Raid said 4.3. So, Marcus Peters is still on the market. Yeah. You know, at the right price. You know, if he could come in right, it got to be the right price. If it's because he's coming off a serious injury. I think 1 year removed from a serious injury. And he's not the fastest corner, but I like the veteran presence, and he's a playmaker too.
Yeah, if you can get him on a cheap deal and not guarantee that he's going to be a starter and him kind of be a mentor role player for a lot of these guys, then I just like the Bay Area tie. I like that he grew up a Raider fan. I like the connection to Marshawn, and I like that storyline probably more so than I actually like the fit.
Damn, yeah, that is crazy. Tywan Jones still playing. Is he playing for the Bills? I forgot. I felt like he was playing.
That's crazy. Hey, special team. You find a home in special teams, you have a long career in the NFL.
That and athletically, like, he's gifted. Like, usually when you're that athletically gifted, like, you could, as long as you stay harnessing your craft, bro, like, you could stay a long time in the league. Lafayette says, colder in Pennsylvania, guarantee I live 30 miles across Erie Lake from Canada. Man, whoo. See, I can't talk about California weather with East Coast people, man, because y'all about to just make me feel guilty. No, I'm just playing. But
even here in the Midwest, I mean, it gets cold.
Wasn't Route the guy that made the winning interception the weekend out pass? No, that actually was Michael Huff. Michael Huff, yep. Number 24. I remember that. And they had like 10. What did they have? Like 10 players on the field. Yeah, that was kind of weird. I don't know that
it was Matt Schaub though. I mean,
it was Matt Schaub, but
leave it to Matt Schaub.
Let's see. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to get to some of these comments. Port Adelaide Raiders says, or 13 million max. Actually, for JJ, I would give him an extra $1 million in incentives.
It's going to be the guarantees. I think that's what people need to remember. It's like, even if you extend him to say like 3 year, let me just pull a number out of my hat, like 3 year, $36 million extension. If you can guarantee 30 million or up to 28 million, so I would guarantee 24 million. Like if you extended him 3 year, 36 million, I'm going to guarantee 26, and I'm going to be okay with that. That's guaranteed $8 million a year, which that's an extremely good base salary, and then build his incentives off of that, health, yards, production, playoffs, et cetera, and then built his contract based off of that. Like if you can guarantee me $8 million solid, $8 to $9 million consistently across the board with the 3 year extension, I'm okay with that. But it's when you start getting in those 12, 13, $14 million type of deals, I just don't see it happening.
And Raider Room, he says, if we don't go after Queen or Sims, we got to look at Zach Cunningham. Hey, if you're just joining us, that's literally the players that I outlined, like the Raiders take a look at. And Ray made a good point about Queen and Simmons probably wanting a new contract if we trade for him, and maybe the Raiders are probably not going to do that. It might be a possibility that we can get him, and it might be like the cornerback that we just had, Rocky Sin, who literally was on a last year's rookie deal. Let him play it out, and obviously the Raiders weren't interested in bringing him back.
The difference about that, though, was we didn't give up draft compensation. We gave up a player. So we didn't lose out on that. You know what I mean?
Hey,
so if we...
Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah. I mean, is Hunter Renfrow equally equivalent to a Patrick Queen or an Isaiah Simmons? I would make the argument you could get one of those linebackers and some. Like, you might actually get a draft pick out of that as well. Unless
how about Simmons, because I think the Ravens are probably done getting
with the wide receiver room. It'd be Cardinals.
The Cardinals, but they're kind of.
I would do it straight up. Even though I feel like you can kind of get, if they took on the whole contract, do it straight up. Now, if you had to eat some of the contract, you know what I mean. It's got to be post June 1st contract. It's because I think the dead cap then is like 1 point something million. It's nothing. So. It's got to be post June 1st. If they're willing to take on the entire contract, bring Isaiah Simmons straight up trade.
See, and the thing is, too, I'm not even sure if the Cardinals will do it because, like, they're kind of – this year is probably going to be like rebuilding year, because Kyle Murray's not going to come until like the middle of the season, and they kind of like, I think they got so many draft picks next year. Like their GM kind of set them up for success next year, not the season that's coming up, but next draft they might be able to.
They're sitting in a very good spot.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're going to be aggressive and get like a Renfro, because the Renfro, for someone to trade for Renfro, it's almost like he's the missing piece to our offense. Cardinals right now, they're like Murray's out, so like they got other issues. They can't really afford to trade for, and player for player trades don't really happen. Like when that happened, Rockets. It doesn't usually happen.
It was kind of a wash for both teams too, if you think about it. Ngakwe was a free agent. Rock Ya-Sin became a free agent. So,
Raider Pete says in the end zone, I remember holding my breath. Yeah, I remember that too. But
I remember that game. It's so weird how like a game can just like stick in your memory.
Man, because it was like, oh, come on. Like, especially when close games with the Raiders, we've seen so many close games. Like right now, I'm at a point where like I want to see blowouts, but I'm not sure, how soon that's going to happen. But yeah, close games could be fun. But like, man, last couple of years, like it seems like every game the Raiders played were close games, or unless we're getting blown out. Whew, man, hey, good luck to you. The Raider room. I liked route. I didn't know he ran a 4.3 though. Yeah, he ran a 4.2. He ran a 4.2.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, he ran a 4.2. Back in the days when let's see, T Severe. So the guy that we got, I think Trey Tucker, I think he ran a 4.2 at his pro day. His pro day, he was clocked in at 4.2. DeMar is the most recent guy. Now, are you sure though? I think we've drafted a corner, but because DeMarcus Van Dyke that was like 2006, 2007, like early 2000s. I'm sure we got a corner in between that time that ran a 4.3. Digital Prez in the building, my guy.
Shout out to DP.
Yes, sir, man. Hey, look, go make sure that you guys need to go on his Raider IG, Raider Resistance.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, Raider Resistance and Raider Room are probably the best, IGs when it comes to Raider news and rumors and all that good stuff, and some funny memes too. Hey, Prez, he is a funny dude. So
Prez
he got
is funny.
He's hilarious.
I hope Prez is gonna start making a little mini film. I know he's in the movies. Yeah. I'm trying to see him come out with a film.
Yeah.
Hey, if you need an extra DP, you just give me a call, make a flight out there. We'll do a little fan film.
Nixon ran a 4.3, I think, but I'm thinking along the lines of potential starter. Okay, all right. Nixon ran a 4.3. Okay. So he had an answer, but the lines of potential starter. Huh? Because I think you froze, Ray. You still there?
Yeah, I was reading the comments.
Ray has left the building. No, I can't.
I think you froze. I'm over here like
I can hear you. I can hear you, but you froze. That's all.
Oh, you on my screen you froze.
On my screen. Hey, who froze? See, it's Ray. It's Ray. It got to be you. If it's me, let me know. Lafayette says, "Crazy how time flies." Michael Huff, I know, right? Whoo, that was a minute ago, man. Avikazi Raider in the building. He says, Taiwan was another piece of that breakaway speed we had in abundance back in the early 2010s. Amazing, still in the league. Yeah. Nah, special teams, man. Special teams. It's crazy. He converted from, this is how athletic he was. He converted from running back to cornerback and still held it down. Still been in the league, but special teams, he kind of carved out a niche in the NFL. Raider Pete, Keyshawn Nixon was the only Raider signing autographs in pregame at the Colts. Keyshawn Nixon was the only Raider signing autographs in pregame at the Colts in 19. Hey, man. And you know what? Nixon, what's crazy about him? He's kind of become like a really good returner, I think, for the Packers. So he's playing well with them as well. So and I think him and Bisaccia over there doing big things over there at special teams. Avikazi said Huff was one of the divine interception that was super. but were they though? Were Matt Schaub led Texans? Were they a Super Bowl contending team? I mean, I was never a big Matt Schaub guy, especially when the Raiders picked him up. Oh my God, I was so disgusted. I was so glad that the Raiders. This is back in the day, y'all. But when the Raiders, I think that was the year the Raiders drafted Derek Carr. So I was glad that he took that spot. Rated Tape says, start paying these running back per game. Damn, you're ruthless. Man, per game, that's pretty much where they're at, man. Because if you look at it, I think there's a few running backs that are on not rookie deals, but I think they're on not rookie deals, but they're on franchise tags. So I think there's a few running backs that I think that are like not getting paid. So this market right now is crazy for running backs. But what's crazy is the Lions drafted a top. I think they drafted a running back in the first round, the top 12. That's crazy. Port Adelaide Raider says, and Amari Burney may have a better chance of working as a converted safety to linebacker because he actually played some linebacker in college, whereas Abram and Diablo didn't convert till they got in the league. So, okay. So what you're saying is he's had time to actually like kind of get used to playing that position, but his size though, you're probably gonna only put him in spots on that defensive side of the football, but. He's a 6th round pick, so what can you expect from a guy like that? I mean, to be honest with you, I'm kind of happy that the Raiders kind of did their job like in the first couple rounds. I know we could have went defense in the second round, but Michael Mayer seems like he's going to be a good player, so I'm not mad at it. Raider room, none of these need a wide receiver in a. Hold on, let's see what's going on with Let's see. Hold up. Okay. All right. My bad. The Raider room says none of those teams need a wide receiver, in my opinion. Cards have a slot receiver that's pretty good. Yeah. I was just throwing it out there, man. Hey, man, I just want the Raiders to upgrade that linebacker because that's going to be so annoying to watch every Sunday, linebackers, because it's been a problem for a long time. But Raider Pete says Al's spirit was the 11th man in Houston win. Raiders mystique from beyond. Yeah, or that was just like the league is all about entertainment. Sometimes the things that happen in the NFL, like I don't even believe, man. Like it's crazy. Some of the crazy things you see. As the running back was the script. That was part of the script. T Severe says Nixon ran a 4.4. Big Plays Day ran a 4.4. We have we have a run on 4.4 corners. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, that might be true. That might be true. I think this is Jason right here. Jason, number one. Only problem with Simmons that I think we would have, and it's the problem that the Cardinals have, and that's using him properly. He's too versatile, in my opinion. What y'all think? I think he could fit in. I think Patrick Graham could use a guy like he's always had like that. He can use a chess piece. I think with the Giants when he coached that defense, he had a player like that where he was kind of like that tweener. It was a safety. I think it was Peppers. But hey, we'll see, man. I'm just trying to see. I'm just trying to think of creative ideas to upgrade that linebacker room, and I'm sure they're thinking about it. Let's see. Let me get caught up right now. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Ray says, can we get an early start in D-line prediction? Oh, Ray, come on, man. I think it's going to be Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, Bilal Nichols. It depends, though. 4-3 or 3-4? If we doing like four D linemen, I think it's going to be Max Crosby for sure, Chandler Jones on the other side. I think Bilal Nichols is going to start, and maybe Neil Farrell. Neil Farrell will probably get the start in his second year. If we run in a 4-3, who knows? But let's see, man. I don't know what's going on. I think Ray's dealing with technical difficulties. But yeah, man, if y'all want to call in, chop it up, man. The number right here, 628-333-9343. Make sure to like the video. Go ahead and hit that like button. Let's see here. Let's see. Raider Pete says, bam, there's your 3K. Oh, for real? Did I get the 3K? Oh man. That's crazy. Hold up. Let me actually because I was like 5 away from 3K. Hold on, let me check this out real quick. I wasn't really stressing it. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. I'm just gonna check this out, y'all, because I was like 5 away from 3K. This is beautiful. Live on YouTube. Hold on 1 second. Is it that good? 3K? Hey, hey, man. There's a hey, man. Hey, appreciate y'all, man, for subscribing. Finally got the 3K. I was kind of like stuck on 2,900 for a minute, but I appreciate the support. And there's gonna be a 3K prize. Don't worry. Just be on the lookout on my community tab, and we're gonna have a little prize giveaway, man. I appreciate the support, man. If you guys haven't liked the video, make sure to like the video. Now I gotta change it up now. I can't even say the road to 3K no more. I gotta say the road to 4K, or you know what I'm saying. I gotta change up the goals now, man. I appreciate y'all support, but let me get back to the chat, man, before I wrap it up. I wanted to hear from y'all before. Let's see. Hey, I appreciate you and your son, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Super Omnicron says, unless they can mix in Kinlaw from San Francisco and free agency, or it's Kinlaw still free. He's a bust. Whoo, man, he's a bust. Or D tackles Butler, Pharoah blow up and find their game. D tackle Byron. Yeah, I like Byron Young. Like we talked about earlier in the show with Ray. He's a guy that can stop the run, and I know Ray had a breakdown. Y'all check that out. He broke down Byron Young earlier this week, so make sure to check that out. But I like him at D tackle. He could possibly add a little bit of pass rush juice, but more so, I think to begin with, he's going to be a run stopper. Let's see here. But yeah, man, like I said, I appreciate the support, man. Yeah, hey, man, thank you, man. Appreciate you, Debo. One of my day ones right here. Jack Kenna. Another one of my day ones. Hey, Pharoah, did you miss my second super? You can't. Oh, hold up. No. I didn't see the. Hold up. You said 2? Hold on. Let me get. I gotta go back. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. Man, You said. Let me see. That's crazy. I would have seen that. No, don't see it. Hopefully Ray's okay. He just disappeared. Hold on, let me see if he. Hold on 1 second. Oh, okay. He's dealing with some technical issues. It's all good. I'm gonna thug it out and close it down on my own. But yeah, man. Hold on 1 second. Did I see it? Hey, my bad, Jack. I'm trying to go back and see if you sent a super chat earlier. I know I read one of them, but you said 2. I only seen 2. Hold up. This one? Oh, yeah. All right, my bad. I didn't see this, man. The chat was going crazy. Jack says, appreciate the super chat for $5. He says, guys, been saying for 6 months now, Stroud is the same as the top 4 QBs next year. Next year, go all in on Caleb. Well, what is that going to look like? If we win some games next year, we're probably going to be in like the back end of the first round, maybe in the middle of that first round. What is it going to take to get to number 1? They're probably going to want everything. They want everything from the Raiders. I don't know. Is it going to be worth it? If you're going to give like 5 first-round picks for a guy like Caleb Williams, or do you guys agree? I should put up a poll, but that might be a little bit too early. But yeah, man. Hey, but he's not the only QB in the draft, too. So it's kind of early for me to talk about the top QBs in the next year's draft. But if Caleb Williams, and I think it's another quarterback as well that's going to go 1 and 2. Man, the Raiders are either got to do really bad next year, which is not going to be good for Dave Z and McDaniels. I don't think they're going to survive a terrible season, less than 7 wins. Or, even if they don't make the playoffs and they're in like the middle of that first round, maybe back into that first round, then it's probably not going to be good for them either. But yeah, man, I appreciate the support, Jack, man. Hey, my bad. I did not see this super chat. Appreciate it. Let me get back to it real quick. Oh, we got another one, my guy. Hey, I got to give y'all some horns, man. Congrats on the hard work. Love your show, guys. Hey, Debo, man, I appreciate that. You're one of my day ones, always supporting. Appreciate the $10 super chat. My guy. Ryan Rango, hey, so he says Ryan Rango says, salute Pharoah, just subscribe, my guy. Caught you on a few other shows. Love your content, brother. Hey, I appreciate that for real, man. Hey, appreciate everybody that subscribed. Like I said, I'm gonna have a 3K giveaway, so be on the lookout. I'm gonna be posting on my community tab, so make sure to be on the lookout. And yeah, just all you gotta do is just pretty much sign up, and there's gonna be a giveaway, a prize giveaway for for me getting to 3,000. I've been kind of made this a little habit. Every time I get to a certain goal on my channel, I like to celebrate, and I want to celebrate with my subscribers. And I appreciate everybody. And I don't even look at y'all as my subscribers. I look at y'all like as Raider fans. We all here talking football, having a good time. So I really appreciate the support. Oh yeah, Drake May. Yep, Drake May. So that's come on, man. Like that's kind of like, man, we can't really hope for that though, man. We can't hope for that. I mean, like the Cardinals might get the top pick, because I think the Texans gave away their pick and they might play terrible. So the Cardinals might get the top pick. Tampa Bay might get the top pick. There's so many teams that are in probably worse situations than the Raiders, to be honest with you. To get the number one pick is going to be impossible. Hell, number two to both those guys have Burrow and Lawrence level hype at least for first watch. Yeah, for sure. If they're getting hyped right now, come on, man. Come on now. But hey, Debo, I appreciate the super chat, man. Appreciate it, man. As the now Caleb Williams and Drake May QB1. That's what I'm saying. Like, look, they're literally the two best players in that draft. And for us to even think that we're gonna get them, like if it happens, it happens. But I'm just saying, like, if the Raiders get the number 1 or 2 pick, that means like, man, it's gonna be a new coach next year and possibly a new GM. Who knows? All good. Hey, all good, Jack, man. Thank you, my like. Hey, man, all good, man. I did not, my bad. I did not see that you sent a super chat earlier. I seen the first one. I didn't see the second one, man, because we just were talking. But I appreciate the support. Daniel Kim in the building. He says, salute, Pharoah. Appreciate you coming through. Man, Laker fans. Hey, I just want to let y'all know, man. The Warriors, hold on. The Warriors play? Hold on, let me see when the Warriors play. Warriors going to handle business. Hold on 1 second. Warriors. I think they play tomorrow, right? Oh, they play right now. Oh my God, I'm missing the game. Oh my God, I'm over here talking smack, and I'm missing the game. Damn. 68-86. Let's not talk about the Warriors and Lakers. Let's forget about that. Woo. Again, man, they kind of. Man, the Warriors got to give it to him. Hold on. Port Adelaide Raiders says there is also Shooter Sanders, Michael Penix, Michael Pratt, Jaden Daniels. Hey, you on it, man? You are on it. You are talking college. You're talking about the draft in 2024 right here, man. If y'all haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to Port Adelaide Raiders channel, man. This guy knows his stuff. Obviously, over here he's listing all the top QBs from next year's draft. Hey, I'm not gonna say nothing this game. I'm not gonna say nothing, man. They're hyped right now. They're mad that they got whooped last game, so we're gonna see what's gonna happen next game. Let's see. As far as QBs go, okay. Ati Severe says, I think we're gonna surprise a lot of people. We had some incredibly bad luck last year. It was a regression to me. Yeah, I think if to be honest with you, offensively, we're pretty talented. I mean, Devontae Adams, we added probably arguably the best tight end in college football in the draft. We added, Jacoby Myers, who's going to fill in that number 2 spot, and he has versatility to go inside. We still have Hunter Renfrow. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, but we still have him on the roster. So that's still a weapon that we know that's a proven commodity. So that offense, and, the Raiders need to go ahead and sign Josh Jacobs to a deal. Hopefully it's going to be a good deal for both parties. So the Raiders offense is going to be on point. I think it's going to be run smoother with Jimmy G. I think Derek Carr is a better quarterback talent. He's a more talented quarterback than Jimmy G, but Jimmy G just fits that system. He's a better fit. So I feel like this offense is going to look better under him. Daniel Kim, it's a definite good QB draft next year. Yeah, we're talking about that, man. But let's focus on this year, man. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but look, I just want to say, man, I appreciate everybody coming through. This has been a fun show. I just wanted to get through all the chats because I know you guys were was going at it back and forth, and we didn't get a chance to catch up. And Raider Ray would be here as well, but he's having technical issues. But I appreciate everybody coming through. Yeah, I know, right? He's on it man. He has all the top QBs. Look, facts. I like Shader Sanders, Bo Nick, Jay Dan. Okay, all right, man. He's on it. He's on it. The draft just completed last week, and he's already talking about 2024. So make sure to go ahead and subscribe to my guy's channel. T Severe says, let's see what Sanders does against D1 competition. Phoenix is small and hurt, man. See, even T Severe is on it too, man. He knows his stuff. And make sure to go ahead and subscribe to Severe Raiders channel, man. He dropped a video like a week ago. It's pretty good, man. He had his thoughts against Tyree Wilson. He's not a big Tyree Wilson guy. He made his case. He thought the Raiders should have got, Jalen Carter. I disagree. I thought it was going to be a little bit risky to go after Jalen Carter. Talented, maybe. You got a point. Jalen Carter is more talented, but Jalen Carter would have been real risky, especially with all the off-field stuff. And the Raiders were not trying to go that route. And it's funny, too. Remember, Vic Tafur was saying he was off the draft board, and guess what happened? They didn't draft him when he was on the board. So, and a lot of people were questioning Vic Tafur, which is crazy. Daniel Kim, who was your favorite pickup of the offseason so far? Draft and free agency? Free agency was kind of slow, man. It was just a lot of the same. I like that Duke Shelley cat. He looks nice, but yeah, and and the coaching staff, McDaniel's hyping up as a starter, but overall, like the draft and free agency, you can post it in the chat. Mr. CT says, what's good, homie? Shout out for you. Hey, man, appreciate you coming through, man. Appreciate you, man. Man, all the way from Youngstown, Ohio, man. Appreciate you coming through. All right, man. Look, appreciate the shot. Hey, yeah, all good, T Severe. Keep doing your thing, bro. I like supporting people, man. Hey, Super Omicron says, hoping the Dubs win, but Lakers AD is coming back. Yeah, I hope so too, man. But I'm checking the score right now while we're on live. It's 68-92. It's not looking too good. I think that the Lakers might wrap this one up, and they're gonna have to Warriors gonna have to regroup. But it is what it is, man. But let's see. Debo, thanks, my guy. Go Warriors. Have a good night. Go watch. Hey, yeah, go ahead and hey. Hopefully they come back. Appreciate you coming through. But yeah, man. Let me wrap this thing up, man. Been a good long show. Hold on one second. Boom. All right. Yeah, man. Let's see. Let me take this out. Man, that's a lot of stuff, man. Hold on. Let's see. Super Omicron. Hey, 3K all day, Pharoah. Yeah, hey, appreciate it, man. Hey, like I said, I appreciate this is I wasn't even expecting it. I kind of totally forgot about it, but I was 5 away from 3K. So I appreciate everybody that subscribed to my channel. Like I said, be on the lookout. I'm going to be posting on the community tab for a prize giveaway to celebrate my 3K. Getting to 3K, man. I appreciate the support. And Lafayette, no one cares about the Lake Show. Raider Ray in the building. He says, shout out to the chat. Y'all showed up really well. Appreciate it. Shout out to my brother Pharoah hitting K. Hey, man, appreciate it, man. He's having technical difficulties. But as you can see, he's in the chat holding it down. But yeah, man, I appreciate everybody coming through, man. Hey, like I said, the Raiders, they had a solid draft. They are rebuilding, but they were able to get better, in my opinion. There's still some moves that they need to make, and up until now, until the training camp. But like I said, man, I appreciate everybody coming through. Hey, man, appreciate the nation coming through and supporting, man. And like always, man, I gotta end it on the right note. Just win, David. Hey, hold on. Oh.
Great Pharaoh. The gift of Troy is a fabulous fabric from the land of the 5 rivers.
Just win, Damon.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.